Well, I've been getting quite a few questions about lighting recently, and it's made me remember it's not a trivial topic, so I thought it might be helpful if I did a video on that. Although there's not really going to be anything specific to ZGA here, because it doesn't use any special light classes or anything. So if you already know how to use lighting in UE4, probably there won't be much here that's new to you. But anyway, so first of all, I almost exclusively use spotlights rather than point lights. Obviously, skylights and that are no good because we're using enclosed levels. So there you go. The first property of spotlights you're going to want to use is the attenuation radius, probably, which just dictates how far away the lights can affect. So there, now we can see there's some slight lighting going on. Right, so the next thing you probably want to kind of want to know about are the cone angles. So that just dictates, well, it's pretty obvious, right? It's just the how big the lighting cone is. You might be wondering what the inner cone angle is, and what that is between the inner lighting cone and the outer lighting cone, the brightness will fall off from maximum to zero. So within the inner cone, it's max. So if I make that the same size as the outer cone, you get that very harsh kind of stage light, spotlight effect. So I tend to put it just a little bit less than the outer cone angle, so it's smoothed out a bit, but at the same time you get the full brightness for most of the cone. Okay, so the next important property of spotlights is the brightness. Oh, this goes for any lights. The intensity it's called here, actually. Now, by default, the brightness in UE4 lights is actually quite low. It might not look that here because UE4 has an auto exposure effect, which kind of acts like your eye in adapting to the darkness. Something I found out a little while ago is that this effect doesn't seem to work for all the hardware for whatever reason. So we need to turn up the brightness quite a lot in order to support some hardware. So to simulate what it's going to look like if the auto exposure isn't working, you can go to Project Settings, Rendering, and find Auto Exposure here under Default Post-Processing Settings, and just untick it. Then if we go back here, it's almost completely dark, right? Because the lights are, like I said, they're very dim by default. So I find I generally have to turn it up to about 30,000, although that depends on the size of the room. So this is a fairly large room, and the walls are a fair distance from the lights, so I'm going to put it up to about 45,000. Okay, well, as you might have noticed, this is just the pipe map that I've removed all the lights from. So I'm just going to go about showing you how to go about lighting the main room, because you might initially think you're going to need an awful lot of spotlights to cover every area, but that's not actually the case, and I'll show you why. So I think I could probably get away with just two. So I'm going to put that one on the other side of the titular pipe, just because it's going to completely block light from that other spotlight. So, and I'll just move that up a bit as well. Now, UE4 can actually bounce lighting off the walls, much like in real life. Which is why I think two lights is going to be enough. But to get that effect, you're going to have to build lighting. You're going to have to build lighting anyway, otherwise you'll get this god-awful lighting needs to be rebuilt error up there. So there are several quality levels for lighting builds, and it's going to be set to preview by default. I tend to put it on production all the time. The idea is preview and anything below production is going to be faster, so you can use them when you're just trying to get, quickly put the level together, just so you can see. But to get the full effects, you need to put it on production before you, finalize the map, and you might not get the proper light bouncing effect either. So I'm just going to press build to build lighting now. I've set it on production, and this is going to take a while, so I'll probably fast forward this bit. Well, that did take a long time. It took about 10 minutes. Obviously, that's not something you're going to want to be doing regularly. But now it's done. You can see this whole room is pretty much lit from two lights. You know, even down here, although it's a bit darker. So you do want to be minimising the number of lights you use for performance reasons, as well as another reason I'll probably discuss in a little bit. So that's good that you've got the bouncing lighting like that. It might say something like, what does it say? Map check found some issues or something like that, and then if you click that, it'll pop up with this nonsense about static meshes and null static mesh properties. You can just ignore that; it's not important. Also, as soon as a lighting build finishes, you'll probably have some strange artifacts which seem to go away as soon as you move the camera. Okay, so one more property of lights that you might want to use is just the colour to get some different effects. So you can either go for quite an extreme effect, like making it fully red, like in some of the sections on Chamber, or if you just make it, more subtle, you can get quite a nice, like, sodium light effect, or a cold LED effect. You won't get the full effect until you rebuild lighting, though. It's just not as extreme until you rebuild lighting. So let's think. Okay, so I think the last thing you might run into is sometimes you get a little cross icon on one of the lights, and I'm going to see if I can make that happen now. Although, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what causes it. Okay, there we go. So we've got a little cross there. Like I say, I'm not entirely sure what causes it, because we seem to need 4 lights to make that happen there. But I think it's basically when you've got lots of overlapping lights. So if you're getting that, just try and reduce the number of lights and make sure they don't overlap. Like, as I explained earlier, you don't need that many lights anyway.